Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Katherine Horton, and today's episode is called Blitzkrieg. I will say more about that, but before I do, let me just check the sound quality, because just now I experienced a bit of... Okay, that sounds good. It sounds like you guys can hear me, because just now I experienced a bit of counter Blitzkrieg from the other side, trying to block me from going online. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Blitzkrieg was, it's a term from Nazi Germany, and it's something that the Germans tried to use against their, their opponents, or rather against everybody who they were invading. So it's kind of like, Blitz means lightning, so it's lightning war. In the US, I guess you would call it the shock and awe doctrine. Okay, so you try to utterly overwhelm the opponent by having a very fast, very intense assault on them. And we are now really going into this phase of the war where you will see all these Blitzkrieg-style attacks from both sides, where both the bad side, the evil side, and the good guys are going to launch into all-out attacks at a moment's notice. And I would like to update you about the newest developments. And I also encourage you, if you're a victim, to have your own little Blitzkrieg. It needn't even be little, to have your own big, massive, badass Blitzkrieg against the global organized crime cartel. And I'll give you some ideas how to do that. But first of all, let me open with an assault from the other side against all of us, especially those of you who have YouTube channels. My attention was drawn to this piece of news by one of the investigators who thankfully sent it to me. And otherwise, it would have utterly passed me by, and probably also, this assault would have taken me by surprise. But look at this. Sorry, today it's a bit slow because my computer's, messing about. But look at this. So YouTube announced that it will be deleting thousands of accounts after it bans supremacists, conspiracy theorists, and other harmful users. Now, conspiracy theorists, of course, we know the term conspiracy theory was perhaps coined, or perhaps only reinforced and popularized, by the CIA after the Kennedy assassination, which Professor James Fetzer has just recently in the broadcast proved to be, entirely organized by a crime cartel. Okay, so there was a massive conspiracy. It was a government conspiracy. So conspiracies happen all the time. So those people who, and as I keep emphasizing, conspiracies are otherwise known as business plans. Okay, so business plans exist all around us, and those people who theorize about business plans are to be banned from YouTube. Now, this is a pretty broad brush, isn't it, when you put it like that? And of course, those people who have experience of the social media censorship or outright shutdown on Facebook and Twitter, which is something that I suffered from. Twitter, for example, Facebook, or fuckbook as I call them. So Fbook banned me, in fact, after I entered my name. I was banned from Facebook just based on my name, because I just entered my name and my email to open account. And as soon as I pressed, open account, I was already shut down. So you can tell that I was just banned on my name alone. It doesn't get any more ad hominem than that. But Twitter also recently suspended me after the malicious action of two people who then even confessed to, triggering this suspension against of my account. So anyway, so when you read this is on the Independent website in the United Kingdom. You can read the article, but whatever the hell the Independent is saying, if you are a victim of the intelligence agencies and you are broadcasting about crimes against humanity, you have to understand that they mean you. So what I did is I downloaded all of my YouTube videos, and I was surprised to find I've got 450 by now. And I am now going to upload them to other channels. And I ask you to please, please bookmark these pages, because I can be struck off YouTube at the moment's notice. Okay? And then I don't want you to just, you know, sit there and after 4 months think, oh, I haven't heard anything from Katherine recently. But I would like you to bookmark the following pages now and know that should YouTube take me down, it will be your responsibility to seek me out on the other sites, and I will continue uploading my videos there. The first one is called, sorry, it's very slow in typing. It's called bitchute.com. And you will find my channel on /stop007. Okay, so bitchute.com /stop007. I'm already there, and I'm gradually uploading my past 450 videos, which you will see crop up. So you might want to bookmark this page now and check in occasionally, because all my old videos are still valid. There's nothing that I had to fundamentally rewrite, and there was a lot of information in there. So if you like, you can always just see what's cropping up here fresh, and just click through, you know, just fast forward it and have a quick and fast look through. So BitChute, but also I want you to bookmark several so that we have a bit of redundancy in the system. The other one is Vimeo.com, and it's exactly the same, Vimeo.com /stop007, and you will find my videos up there as well. Okay, I am also on RooTube. Okay, so this is the same channel. It has the same type of videos here, but one channel has a few more than the other. Okay, and I'm also on RooTube, but you know, if you bookmark these two, that's good enough for now. But you also notice that as soon as you switch over to Vimeo and BitChute, you are basically in a ghost town. Okay, so while my videos would attract something like you know, several thousand views within a day, on YouTube, my videos on BitChute attract about 40 views. Okay, so there you can see the power of censorship. And it is your responsibility, yours and yours alone, to fight this by actually actively seeking out creators on BitChute and on Vimeo. Okay. Now, BitChute and Vimeo are not as, you know, well advanced, and they don't have these recommendations, which are actually quite good on YouTube. I found a lot of very valuable content through YouTube and the AI pushing it towards me. It's not just bad. Sometimes it's genuinely relevant, you know. So that's not present on BitChute and on Vimeo. So you really have to find creators, content creators yourself, which is actually quite hard if you don't know what you're looking for. So I ask you to please, you know, bookmark these pages now and start having a look at those videos, knowing that I will be walking through the past 450 videos I did, you know, over the coming weeks, and you will pick out, you know, probably something that you find super interesting, I hope, you know. But also, should YouTube shut me down, I will switch immediately to those two sites. Okay, and should also they be shut down, you can find me on RooTube by searching for Stop007. Okay, so it's very, very important. The other thing I really ask you is to please go to my Patreon page, so patreon.com /stop007, and please support me on Patreon. You know, I have lost a few supporters, because I mean, some people just come and go. Some people only want to donate one-off, you know, maybe a smaller sum, but then I've dropped under 200 supporters, and I'm like, it feels like I've failed. And if literally all of you guys who are watching my videos, you know, there's thousands of people watching every video. If you guys just donated $1 per month, I could make a, you know, a very stable living out of this. $1 per month. Do you think saving the world is worth $1 per month? Is it worth $5 per month for you? You know, please, because I've got travel expenses when I'm going and supporting victims, and at the moment I'm working flat out on court cases, so I really need you to help me, because otherwise I won't be able to eat. Okay, so please support me. I'm literally working in your service as well. I hope I have proved that to you. Okay, but anyway, so now onto the Blitzkrieg. Okay, so now you know how to guard against the YouTube Blitzkrieg, you know, the cartel blitzkrieging you. But the other thing I wanted to say about YouTube is that if you are a victim, okay, and you have reported about crimes against you on YouTube, be aware that your videos are, number one, evidence of ongoing crimes, They're also evidence of crimes against humanity, okay, and therefore under special protection. Also, it is in the national interest of having your videos up online and made available to the broadest viewership possible, okay? So relegating you to ghost town platforms, which shouldn't be ghost towns, we should have been going to those platforms all these past years. We were on YouTube, right? We didn't, which is why, you know, we're now in this, we can basically be held to ransom by YouTube, right? But it is just the fact right now that YouTube is the #1 website according to the Alexa rank, or actually #2. #1 is Google, or maybe it's the other way around. So the two, you know, sometimes switch sides, but you know, it's #1 or #2 Alexa rank, global rank of the most popular websites. So by being excluded from that, it's like excluding you from using the motorway. Okay, so that's another argument, but also it is absolutely crucial for your nation's national security that the crimes against you are known, you know, to the population, to the widest number of people, okay? That is an absolutely crucial part of the functioning of any democracy or republics, okay, around the world. So very, very important. Now, YouTube, by randomly deleting on whimsical, on whimsical reasons, is actually illegal, or rather unlawful, whatever term you want to use, certainly anywhere within the European Union, and countries like Switzerland, which implement the laws of the European Union without being directly part. It is also, I think, unconstitutional in the United States. Okay, now what they're banking on is blitzkrieg. So even if they might lose the war in the long run, they want to cause as much damage as they possibly can in the short term. Okay, and that's exactly what this whole YouTube activity is. In the long term, it will be proven to be a highly illegal practice in court. I will take care of that. But until then, they want to stifle debate, and they want to slow down the spread of information so that they can kill as many people as possible. Not YouTube directly, but the cartel that is controlling YouTube and making, you know, the CEOs and other puppets there come up with these harebrained, absolutely unlawful policies. Okay. Now, what I want you, or suggest to you, to do as a counter blitzkrieg is to blitzkrieg YouTube. Okay, and you should blitzkrieg them by writing to them, which is, you can find their legal address, and I will show you what it is. Okay, and I ask you to send them a paper letter by registered post. Okay, now this is the YouTube, youtube.com/t/contact_us, and here under contact information you will find their address. Okay, and it's YouTube LLC at 901 Cherry Avenue in San Bruno, California, 94066, USA. Here is the address. And I want you to send them a written letter. And if you are a victim, or if you have reported about crimes against humanity, about 5G, about other things, you know, that are of real national security importance, okay, and are about a genocide, I ask you to write to them and say, listen, this is protected evidence. I, under no circumstances, give you permission to delete these videos for good. You know, you may, right, choose unlawfully to make them invisible, but I want always to have the right to download them and to send people an unlisted link. Okay, but also I urge you to write that it's actually highly unlawful to cover up, because it's aiding and abetting the cover up of crimes against humanity by deleting your videos. Okay, and say that you have litigation in preparation, and the material you have uploaded is part of the evidence of that litigation. Okay, and you need the information to continue to appear on YouTube, and you also are a VIP because you are reporting about crimes against humanity. You are a VIP, and YouTube absolutely has got to keep your channel open. Okay, So in other words, I want you to give them a warning shot, and the Blitzkrieg effect will be when many, many people start writing to them saying the same thing, okay? That this is absolutely unlawful. Because already, if you look at the size of the font with which the Independent has announced it, okay, they did not put it in, you know, in big font that YouTube unlawfully threatens to delete thousands of accounts, okay, which is what they should have done. What the Independent actually wants you to see is that YouTube will be deleting your account. That's what you're taking away from it, you know, and just look at the frickin' font and compare it with their typical news headlines, okay? And then you see that they actually want to scare you, you know? It's basically a big shot across the bow, right? And the Independent is now helping YouTube to really scare people. I don't know what's actually playing. Is it some advert? So one of the newest hacks now is that occasionally some sound file would start playing for no good reason whatsoever, you know? But anyway, okay. So, you know, this is very, very important. But anyway, I want you to know that you have ways to fight back. So please write to them. Here's the address, and get going with your little blitzkrieg, okay? Then on other news, and I'll start to pick up a lot of speed today because we've got a lot to go through. Now this, I think this article by Barbara Boyd that I wanted to show you on the LaRouche page, I think got blitzkrieged because just a moment ago I could still see it and now it's gone. But maybe you can track it down. It's called "The Coup Exposed, British Go for Cover-Up" by Barbara Boyd on the LaRouche Pack website. I really like that article and I wanted to bring it to you, but as you can see here, it doesn't show up. Okay, so that got blitzkrieged by the bad guys, or maybe they moved the article, but then why do I not get an error message? Okay, whatever. Now, the other thing is, I want you to take a note of Donald Trump, okay, who has gone to meet the Queen, and this video says it all. It asks, did Donald Trump greet the Queen with a fist bump? Okay, now this is very important. So I'm not going to play the music, but this is it. Okay, this is the image I wanted to show you. And what is important is that it looks like a fist bump, but that's because they are both doing the Masonic handshake. Okay. And, you know, as some of you may know, the Masonic handshake is this kind of let's massage each other's, you know, hand knuckles sort of handshake, you know, but depending on how high a Mason you are, you're kind of like, you know, I think you're migrating down the knuckles or something. I'm not an expert because I'm obviously not a Mason, right, being a woman, but there's some sort of pattern whereby if you're Master Mason, you're like really going for the full knuckle massage, you know, and all this sort of stuff. Whereas if you're, I don't know, one level down or somewhere in the lower ranks, you just kind of put your fist on the first knuckle or something. But anyway, so if you have two high-level Masons, and as you maybe know, right, Queen Elizabeth is running Masonry, officially that is. I mean, unofficially, we of course know that women typically run jack shit in the world of men. But anyway, you know, and Trump being a billionaire, I mean, hell yes, is he a Mason, right? So you have two high-level Masons and you end up with this rather funky Masonic, you know, let's massage each other's knuckles handshake, and it literally looks like a ghetto-style fist bump. Okay, but the point is that this is yet again, and it's done for public display. Okay, now they know that we know about the Masonic handshake and how exactly they go, but they continue doing it because it's their way of saying, fuck you lot, it's in your face. And if you look at this image through the window and already here, you can see the Masonic sacrificial urns that you will see all around public buildings. Okay? The sacrificial urns, right? I mean, these big fat stone vases didn't just, you know, pop into existence because people thought they were funky. There was a real serious hardcore cartel signaling functionality to them that has been preserved for absolutely centuries and millennia. Okay, so this the sacrificial urns go all the way back to the animal sacrifices of the Greeks and the human sacrifices of the Babylonians and so on and so on. Okay, but that is the Masonic sign for human sacrifice. And also, because these shots, are always super iconic. So you've got the Masonic handshake, you've got the sacrificial urn, and also this one has the black and white checkered pattern. So it's kind of a hint to masonry. And also look how the image is kind of naturally overlit. So they picked this particular one, okay? But these shots are super arranged, okay? And they put a bunch of cameras in a row that one of them will have the perfect shot, okay? With the Masonic tiling and the urns aligned, okay? So this is basically it in a nutshell, right? Here is the Masonic handshake right there. So then if you tell me that Donald Trump is, going to go against the cartel, well, he just Masonically handshook another Mason. Okay. Now, under that light, I'm not saying that the entire Drain the Swamp is lost, because frankly, without Donald Trump, we would have never had a Drain the Swamp hashtag and the Drain the Swamp movement. But what I'm telling you is that still to this day, the entirety of the inland revenue income in the United States goes to Britain, or rather the city of London. Okay, so still what is happening here is that Donald Trump, as the CEO of America with dictatorial powers, because that's why he's putting out executive orders, which actually shouldn't exist if you actually had a constitution in place and you had a Congress, right? You wouldn't have these executive orders flying around left and right. So he, as the CEO with dictatorial powers of Crown Colony, is visiting the mothership and is shaking the hand of the monarch who owns his ass. Okay? And unless you Americans really separate from the United Kingdom, which means that you decree that your IRS money is not allowed to go to London because it equates to terrorist financing, and once your IRS money is used to actually fund roads and bridges and schools and employment projects, apart from gang stalking, only then, right, will you have a hope of draining the swamp. But this is just a reminder. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be negative and dash your hopes. What I'm saying is this is your greatest chance that you ever had. And unless you get behind draining the swamp and exert an overbearing pressure on Donald Trump to jail the motherfuckers, okay, unless you do it now, you might be fucked for another 200 years. Okay, and let this Masonic handshake be a reminder of what you are up against and why every single sane and non-Masonic, non-cartel, man, woman, and child in the United States needs to fight this crime cartel now. Okay, so be aware that your president, as it's set up, is a puppet of the monarchy and the Vatican Crown Corporation, okay? And unless you really, really, really start demanding results and start demanding that those, rumored, fabled indictments, sealed indictments, start being unsealed, unless you do that, and unless you literally slam on the door of the White House to have that done with a massive racket, unless that happens, you still, as of today, remain fucked. And this Masonic handshake tells you as much. Okay? So have a very, very, very good look at this. And as I said, I keep repeating myself, but I want you to really, get it into your heads what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not saying, this is all just one big fraud, because it partially isn't. What they're trying to do is they are trying to harness a natural process. I told you this system is transitioning. There's now, because of the network effects, the nonlinear network effects, that, not even very many mathematicians have understood how powerful they really are. So for sure, no businessmen and, you know, politicians and cartel members and kitty fucking bishops have understood that, right? So the system is transitioning. And I strongly believe, you know, John Nash has predicted this, you know, it was him with these power transition models and much else. But anyway, right, the system is transitioning. And it will be a non-linear transition, which means that absolutely no one will be able to control it. It will be like a nuclear explosion. It will be the systems analysis equivalent of a nuclear explosion in the first, you know, the first time in the history of human systems on this planet. Now, what they're trying to do is they are trying to harness that and divert it and contain it. It is physically impossible to contain it, but the poor dears don't know, so they keep trying. Okay, so they do have drain the swamp, right? They do have the Q thing, but also watch how the Q thing is just leading you into rabbit hole nirvana, right? At some point, if Q is for real, we need real results, okay? Which means we need to see those videos that apparently exist about, you know, James Comey torturing and raping children. Yes, we have a right to see that. I mean, first of all, the Americans, but also the entire world, because as I've pointed out in the past, the FBI is a global crime cartel, okay? And for those people who are new, I would like to remind you why, okay? So we all, literally everywhere, from you know, London to Abu Dhabi, we've got a stake in the FBI because the, hang on, FBI, what is it, .gov in the US? So this, ladies and gentlemen, is ostensibly, right, a federal bureau of investigation. Now, I've just realized that their contact link here at the top has disappeared. Hang on. Where is, because this was not what it looked like a while ago. I want to see the map. Contact us. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. That's it. Here's the map. Does this look like a federal bureau to you? Or does it look like a global crime cartel? Now, add to this the testimony of Ted Gunderson, right, about the child trafficking and the satanic ritual murder organized by FBI, and you get an image, right? So if the FBI is satanically murdering children and trafficking them here, don't you think that they're trying to pull them from all there and work with the CIA in the global trafficking of children, right? Because why the fuck do you need the FBI all over here, right? I mean, ostensibly, they say, oh, well, you know, it's just one FBI agent in all the embassies. Yeah, but all the embassies are staffed by frickin' spooks, okay? And what do the spooks do? Well, they import drugs, right? They trade arms, they subvert countries, and they traffic people. Okay, so you have one head honcho human trafficker sitting in every embassy, which is the command and control center for that country's human trafficking and organized crime, you know, network running that country. This is how you have to understand it. So when something comes up about James Comey, okay, and, you know, I talked at length about the Howdy Doody reference and all this sort of stuff. Okay, I think the world has a right to see that. Final ultimate evidence. It has to be shown in public court, and these people need to be jailed for life, or in the case of high treason, right, put to death. And unless we start delivering on they, and we globally start delivering on that, right, all that actually remains here is just a big fat show of the Masonic crime cartel, the chessboard, right, playing with us. Okay. And another point that I made, you know, in the past, and this is a very serious point, if you really have tens of thousands of sealed indictments, how many judges do you have to process those? You know, because there is a non-stop influx of court cases anyway. And, you know, as a systems analyst, I can tell you, if you've got a system, every system is kind of in equilibrium, okay, more or less. I mean, some of them go all right because they start building up a backlog, which they can never process because these systems don't expand. But so you have the court system with a roughly set rate of cases coming from the population, okay, and they're processing them. And let's say they are in equilibrium. And now you start slamming that system with tens of thousands of extra cases, very involved, and you keep the number of judges fixed. Now, what the fuck do you expect to happen, right? If you actually started processing those tens of thousands of cases, you would generate an absolutely huge crippling backlog, right, of exactly the size of the cases that you're pumping into the system because they all have to go through the same funnel. So whatever you stuff in there is going to become a backlog out. So if you have, say, 40,000 indictments, you're telling me that you're going to put 40,000 cases on hold to process those because you're keeping the number of judges constant. Okay, this is a no-brainer. This is a systems analysis no-brainer here. Okay, so how on earth are you guys, with you guys, I mean the US and those investigators generating those sealed indictments, how on earth are you proposing to process those? Are you going to stuff 40,000 cases through a military tribunal in Guantanamo? I don't think so. So to me, that whiffs of a cover-up. If you're telling me that you are now looking for a system whereby you set up extra judges, okay, who are highly trained, very reliable, have not been bought off by the cartel, and you have mapped that using some graph analysis and some social analysis and the fact that they've never taken a bribe going through their past bank account statements, I think that is the way to go. But you really need to start working on expanding the judiciary system and doing work on the judiciary system because that's where you're trying to feed those cases through. Okay, and remember, human systems are like fucking, garden hoses. They are of a certain size and they can process a certain or pass a certain amount of quantity of, flow of stuff, of cases, a flow of cases. So if you're stuffing more in, right, you're increasing the pressure, which in human systems leads to a drop in quality, right? But eventually you'll make the hose burst. That's what's going to happen. So, these sealed indictments, very, very important, but you have to keep your eye on those. If these guys are serious, and maybe it's true, maybe there was lots and lots of investigations and the investigators were just throwing these cases into sealed indictments. Well, guys, I've got news for you. You are the only people who have an interest in getting these people also into jail on the other side of the judicial system. So you have to do the work to make the judiciary accommodate those cases and act in your interest. Otherwise, you are doing a lot of work and it's all wasted, okay, or will be wasted by these criminals. Very, very, very important point, okay? So going back to the Blitzkrieg theme, what you're doing with these 40,000 cases, you are blitzkrieging the judiciary, okay? Now, if you want them to work in your interest, you shouldn't be blitzkrieging them, okay? You should be weeding out the corrupt guys, right? And I think it's about a third, as the journalist Janet Fallon has discovered, a third of the US judiciary is corrupted and is taking bribes and is paying off multi-million mortgages in just a few years on a salary of just a few $100,000, okay, which is impossible unless you take bribes. So, okay, so don't blitzkrieg the judiciary, the good guys in there, right? You have to help to expand the hose pipe. We have to find a way to start processing this. This could be what, grand juries maybe, but remember that you have to set all these up. And if you do something fundamentally new, a completely new system, it has a turn-on curve and in the beginning, a lot less efficiency. Okay, and these are very, very, very important points. And now I'm not just talking to the investigators, I'm talking to all of you Americans. If you are sovereign Americans, how the fuck do you propose to solve that problem? It is your problem. If you're in a republic, every problem of the republic is your problem. Okay, you guys have to generate some sort of idea of how to deal with it. So, the entrepreneurs under you, among you, get going. Think of something. I could think of something, but hey, I don't really want to steal your show because that's in the US. So, get going with this, guys, and start thinking in terms of systems, okay? Start thinking on in terms of load on a system, of flow in a system, and flow capacity, and these sort of things. Okay, anyway, I don't want to preach too much, just a little bit. Now, breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. I've promised you some breaking news. So here it is now from Kevin Annett. I would like to show you the breaking news here, which is breaking ITCCS global news. Top government, corporate, and church leaders in Canada are indicted and issued summons to appear before Genocide Tribunal. Prime Minister Trudeau, Governor General, Papal Nuncio, and CEOs charged with crimes against humanity. See attached YouTube and documents. This is Friday, June the 7th, 2019. This came out yesterday by Kevin Annett. So you will find this on murderbydecree.com. And I encourage you to go there and check this out. There's the summons and indictment PDF right here. Okay, let me just show you so that we have it on for the record. Sorry, my computer's kind of trying to handle it. So let's have a look at this. So, issued by the International Tribunal of Crimes of Church and State within the boundaries of the Dominion of Canada. Now, this summons is issued on the 7th day of June in the year 2019 to the following individual persons. Julie Payette, the Governor General of Canada, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, Luigi Bonazzo, the Vatican Papal Nuncio to Canada, Liu Shei, the Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to Canada. Oh, wow. There's the CEO of PetroChina, CEO of PetroChina Canada, former director of the Canadian Security Intelligence Services. That's always a good start to include those guys. Brenda, would it be Lutsky? Commissioner of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Peter Montague, officer of the RCMP. That's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Gerald Lacroix, Cardinal of the Roman Catholic Church in Canada. Marc Ouellette, Cardinal of the Roman Catholic Church in Canada. Oh my God. I mean, this, hang on. Yeah, we're almost through. So J. Michael Miller, Archbishop of the Catholic Vancouver Diocese. Fred Hiltz, Primate of the Anglican Church of Canada. Melissa Skelton, Archbishop of the Anglican New Westminster Diocese. And Bob Bennett, Bishop of the Anglican Huron Diocese. Richard Bott, Moderator of the United Church of Canada. And the following officials of clergy of the United Church of Canada: Gary Patterson, John Jessiman, Philip Spencer, Marion Best, John Cashmore. Oh, sorry, Cashaw. Okay, very, very important. So the persons here named are summoned to appear before public inquiry convened under the auspices of this tribunal and international law on Monday, the 16th day of September in the year 2019 at 10 a.m. in the city of Vancouver, Canada, at a public location to be designated. The persons here named and duly served are formally charged by this tribunal with planning, engaging in, concealing, and aiding and abetting crimes against humanity and genocide in Canada and other offenses specified and named in the tribunal's public indictment. Be advised that as a recognized tribunal of conscience, this inquiry has the lawful power to convene a common law court of record to prosecute and sentence the persons here named, depending on the findings and recommendations of the tribunal's judges. Any refusal or failure to respond to this summons may result in a guilty judgment against the accused. The proceedings of this tribunal and common law court will operate under the oversight and with the participation of the ITCCS Directorate and its legal advisors and international human rights and diplomatic observers. The presence of the United Nations peacekeepers at this tribunal has been requested. Its proceedings will be open to the public and the world media. That's very important for you to know, okay? Therefore, the charges and specifications in this indictment and the evidence upon which they are based warrant the immediate issuing of the accompanying public summons to the individual persons there named and the convening of a public inquiry by the International Tribunal of Crimes of Church and State in the city of Vancouver on the 16th day of September in the year 2019. This indictment is issued on the 7th day of June in the year 2019 and is filed and registered at the United Nations and within duly constituted common law courts of record within Canada. So signed C. Hybert, clerk of the tribunal. Okay. Now, what's this smudge on the signature? But anyway, okay, so keep an eye on this. Okay. So indictment, count 1. So I'm just going to scan through because I've just discovered this. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, this is pretty bombshell. Let me just go through at least one here. So indictment, count 1, the tribunal charges that the government of Canada, the Privy Council Office, okay, keep that name in mind, Privy Council, so the Privy Council Office and the Crown of England, through the Governor General and the Vatican and the Roman Catholic Church, the Church of England and the United Church of Canada, as part of a joint, deliberate and ongoing criminal conspiracy, have willfully planned, committed, concealed and aided and abetted the following crimes. What I don't understand is why criminal conspiracy is capitalized here. CC. Okay. The international genocide of indigenous and other non-Christian people and their children as part of a calculated war of extermination. The imprisoning, harming, trafficking, exploiting, torturing, and ritual killing of those children and others under their legal care and custody. The violent occupying and exploiting of the lands and resources of indigenous and other non-Christian people. The financial defrauding of the people of Canada by falsely posing as legitimate religious bodies in order to avoid taxation. And the active concealing of these and other offences and the deliberate obstructing of justice. Now, just as a footnote, if you're talking about, you know, imprisoning, harming, trafficking, exploiting, torturing, and ritual killing, well, there's a lot of that going on right now in Europe. So, you know, and among the targeted communities. So, you know, keep an eye on this. Count 2, the tribunal charges that the government of Canada, the Privy Council Office, and the Crown of England, through the Governor General, are continuing to plan, commit, conceal, and aid and abet these offences with their church partners in genocide by offering political and legal protection to all of those church corporations, including tax-exempt status under Canadian law, special protective privileges under the Criminal Code of Canada, and diplomatic recognition and immunity from prosecution for these and other offences. By assisting these church corporations to obstruct, evade, and deny justice, by publicly disassembling, burying, distorting the truths of this ongoing genocide, and by other crimes to be elaborated in the tribunal proceedings. Count 3. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the same list again. You can read it here. But these guys are also partnering with and aiding and abetting similar crimes by the government of China and its corporations operating within Canada. Okay, specifically the genocide of indigenous people, the theft and exploitation of their lands and resources, the trafficking, ritual torture and murder of indigenous and other men, women and children, the infiltration and subversion of Canadian courts and government bodies, and the concealing of these crimes and the obstruction of justice. Count 4, that the tribunal charges that as a result of these offences and criminal conspiracy, the said church corporations and government of Canada, the government of China and its corporations, and the individual persons named in our public summons constitute a real, present, and ongoing threat and danger to the life, safety, and well-being, sovereignty, and liberty of all Canadians and their children. And that therefore, under international law, these individual persons and their corporate institutions constitute rogue criminal powers that have lost their authority and right to operate within Canada or to lawfully govern. Okay. This summons is issued on the 7th day of June in the year 2019 under common law and the law of nations by the Directorate of the International Tribunal of Crimes crimes of church and state. Okay, so this is published here. You should download this thing. Okay, keep it for the record. I shall do it straight away. So what I would like to do now is just offer a bit of commentary on this, okay, very, very briefly before we go on, because one of the things that you should know is that, well, as it says in this indictment, right, it's still ongoing. I think the assessment is correct that all Canadians are, you know, not safe. And also, you know, all the victims certainly of this targeting program, you can take the wording and you can pretty much take the people accused there, you know, certainly in the case of, you know, the Vatican and the Privy Council and so on, and, you know, copy and paste them into your own indictments, right? So this is ongoing, and it also shows when you follow the case of the of Canada here. You can see that what's being now done across the world is a template is being executed. Okay, so it's very coordinated. Now, there was another point I wanted to make. Yes, the Privy Council. Now, the Privy Council is actually also being fingered by the US investigators who are now unraveling the intelligence agency criminality. Okay, so they have tracked it all the way back down to London. They have tracked it to MI6 and how you know, British intelligence actually set up American intelligence. I pointed you to a very good interview with Michael McKibben on American intelligence media. In fact, let me just point you to it again because, sorry, it is very, very good. Let me just find the link. Yes, here it is. Actually, it was the next link coming up, so I am in schedule. Okay, so here it is. So this is the YouTube channel of the American intelligence media, and the interview with Gabriel and Douglas Gabriel, sorry, of Michael McKibben is here. And last time I think I pointed out the blinding the Five Eyes Hydra. Okay, and I think there already they start talking about the Privy Council, a very, very, very important interview. Okay, then the other one I also thoroughly recommend is this one here, which is called "Will They Go to Prison for Racketeering?" Okay. And there they start talking about the IP theft and how the control of the US patent office was used to steal technology patents. Okay, and how actually the social media giants are founded on stolen technology. Okay, very, very important. But what one of the things, I mean, I am very interested in the American investigators unraveling the patent office. I also would like to, you know, point out that actually the same will have also been the case in all patent offices around the world. Okay. So also the German patent office will be harvested just the same. But then again, also the British Patent Office would be harvested the same, because remember that this is a superstructure we're talking about that is stealing and robbing from everybody. So just because you're British citizen doesn't mean that the City of London is going to be kind to you. No, you're just even closer, and it just has to reach over there and grab your stuff. Okay, so what I would like everybody to do around the world now is let's watch each other and let's watch each other's successes and the very good investigative leads, and always think it's the same template being executed all around the world. So if Michael McKibben and his team are tracking, you know, the American intelligence, you know, conglomerate to a founding through British intelligence, well, you can be pretty sure that German intelligence was set up by the very same people. And remember that both the BND and CIA were set up by the Nazi Gehlen. Okay, why the hell would have the Americans needed, you know, to call Mr. Nazi over? Please, Mr. Nazi, just show us how to be real Nazi and set up the CIA for us, right? Why does the US have a shortage of psychopathic serial killers, or why do you need Gehlen in particular? Well, the reason why they, you know, probably use Gehlen is because the Nazis and British intelligence were, sorry to put it like that, but butt fucking pals in the Masonic crime cartel. Okay, so they are all love buddies, And then they use their mates, right, with whom they had sodomy parties at all these Masonic rituals, right, to set up this global conglomerate, okay? So you see the same militaristic gay men, you know, rampage around the world, and you think, where the hell did they come from, right? And remember, it's nothing to do with gay men per se. It is the subset of militaristic gay men that can form male cliques, strongly bonded male cliques. And in the psychopathic world, that is a recipe for success, because that's the only way how psychopaths can actually bond, okay? Because they don't care about anything but themselves. So it is for this reason that the Gestapo and the SS and every single militaristic organization on the planet is typically controlled by militaristic gay men at the top. It's not intrinsic to gay men, don't get me wrong. It's just that they typically, having gay men, they can form bonds and gang up on other psychos. So, you know, it's a selective procedure, you know, that is, it gives them a selective bias. And I'm absolutely serious about these guys. I know for sure that many of you are giggling as I'm going on about the, you know, backdoor shenanigans of British intelligence and the Nazis. But this is absolutely key, because you have to understand that we're dealing with a sex and death cult at the very core of this, okay? That's why all these Vatican cardinals are all into the rape and murder of children, okay? It is because it is part of their rituals. It's part of this death and sex cult ritual. But there's also, for those who don't ritually sacrifice, they have these sodomy parties. Why sodomy parties in particular? Well, because if you use the back door, you can just rape men and women alike, okay? And remember, women actually don't really count in the cartel, right? They might count in the real world, you know, where they become, you know, the anti-James Bond, like moi, right? Maybe I can make a dent. But in the world of the cartel, women like me have no say, none, right? This is why also the Queen of England cannot possibly be at the very top, really. I think she has male handlers, and there's a male macho in club that really rather resents having a woman even at the table. Okay, I am 100% sure about this. But remember that at the very top, these guys would be taking part in sex rituals for bonding and for the generation of control files. Okay, and this is why you will find around the world in the cartel, right? That's why Galen, right, and the top CIA leadership and this top MI6 leadership, they really knew each other in every sentence of the word, okay? Every sense of the word. And, you know, you will see exactly the same pattern. But now going back to this, okay, you've got Galen setting up BND and CIA and this sort of stuff, right? Or the precursor of the CIA, whatever they called it, the OSS. But now the investigators are tracking all this back to British intelligence, right? To, for example, the Chatham House, right? Or the Royal Institute of Foreign Affairs, and the Council on Foreign Relations, which is the American counterpart to Chatham House, right? And then they're moving in on the Privy Council, all these secretive organizations in Britain. And I'm telling you that if you're in Germany, you should start doing the same. And I tell you, you will end up at the very same destination. If you're wondering who is controlling Germany, remember that Germany is still under occupation by the Allies. So for starters, the British zone would be controlled for sure by British intelligence, right, in the north, the entire north section. But then the south section and bits in the middle are controlled by American intelligence, who in turn are controlled by British intelligence, right? So if you are trying to find out who is controlling Germany, you will come exactly full circle. And you can, you know, certainly all you need to do is take the link from Germany to the US, and then you can use the US investigators' results to trace it all the way back to the Council on Foreign Relations and Chatham House and the Privy Council, and so on. Okay, so we all have to do this now together. Okay, and I predict that the next step is, once you've arrived in Britain, you can track all that the intelligence conglomerate all the way back to Switzerland. I am 100% sure, because this is where the Knights Templar founded their state, and the Knights Templar were one big militaristic organization working for the Vatican. So if you have, you know, military and military intel HQ, a big country just given to them, you can be sure that they ruled Europe, right, through this hub. Okay. So anyway, very, very important that you keep your eyes on the ball with this one. And talking about Blitzkrieg, and in this respect, I think what you guys need to do, all of you, is to start going very aggressively against these IP violations. Now, the book that I'm looking at is unfortunately on the other side of the room on a bookcase. Alfred Lambremont Weber wrote a book on the Levesque cases. And the Levesque cases, if I remember correctly, also involved the theft of IP and traced it all the way, I think, to the Rockefellers, okay? And that was a court case that I think won on the first round, the first instance, but then was overturned on the appeal, which is not too surprising, because unless we recapture the court system, you can be sure that the higher up the pyramid you go, the more complete the deep capture. Okay, this is not surprising, but doesn't matter. We have to, I think, reopen that case and see why exactly it was overturned. But unfortunately, I think Mr. Levesque was murdered. He certainly died under strange circumstances. Okay, so that's what I've heard from Alfred Weber. But you know, you have to realize that all of these hang together. So that's another, I think, if I remember correctly, that's another IP case. I didn't have much time to go through the details yet because I was overwhelmed, but that is a very, very important case to keep in mind. So, but I guarantee you that there will be entrepreneurs in Germany who had IP and IP theft. And I also remember the curious death of a young German entrepreneur who, it's claimed, threw himself off the roof of a tall building, I think in Berlin, but I'm not sure. I think it was in Berlin. And there was no reason for him to do so. Okay, now why would that have been the case? Well, it could have been neurotech. There is somebody also reported to me the case of a woman whose body was taken over, and she was literally walked over and through body control was thrown out of the window. But it, you know, the way it looks is that she did it herself, but she couldn't actually control it. They walked her over and threw her body out of the window using a takeover of her limbs. Now that's certainly possible. Okay. Of course, a person can also be thrown off a building and so on. But when you have German entrepreneurs suddenly dying, you have to really, you know, perk your ears up and think, hang on, is this something to do with the same global crime cartel that has been stealing IP in the US through the US Patent Office? Okay. Now, another thing I want to remind people of, very, very important, now that we're talking about Blitzkrieg, I am asking for information on the Gerald Carroll case, okay? Because that is kind of mirrored, is mirroring the takeover of the US Patent Office, but in that case, it's not the Patent Office, it is Companies House, okay? And the Gerald Carroll's family empire of businesses, which I think also involved, I think helicopter manufacturer maybe, or some arms company, certainly that is family owned. The way I understood it is that he was asset stripped by using a Companies House fraud, whereby they started generating companies that were like his companies, but with a spelling mistake. And then they bit by bit transferred assets between the two until the companies with the spelling mistake had it all, and his companies just owned the debt, and he was bankrupted. Something utterly bizarre and totally, you know, crackpot. But it was done through administrative terrorism. So, you know, war conducted on paper, fraudulent documents and the such. And it led to the utter destruction of an entire family empire in Britain. Okay, now I still to this day do not know what the current status is, because I remember seeing that the case was with the Metropolitan Police and the FBI, and I was like, oh God, you gave it to the Masons and the Masons. I mean, you know, what do you expect to happen? So I think in these cases, really, private investigations are the only ones, and investigations whereby you use a court to force every step of the investigation are the only way to go, because the Metropolitan Police is entirely controlled by the Masonic crime cartel, which is why they have the black and white Masonic tiling on their caps. Okay, so anyway, again, it's the same template being executed for Blitzkrieg. Okay, the stealing of patents from the patent office, the administrative terrorism using companies' house, and you know, stealing wealth and so on. But once you know that, you can do Blitzkrieg back by using the fact that there's already an investigation happening in the United States, and piggyback on that, knowing that you can use the exact same results to look for victims and, you know, IP theft and other types of crimes everywhere else, certainly in the colonies like Germany, but also in other countries where this organized crime cartel might have pulled it off. So off the bat, I can tell you that I expect exactly the same types of crimes to be found in Germany, in India, in Pakistan, in the entire Commonwealth, and in Australia, right? I think the Five Eyes have been stealing patents and weaponizing patents for a very long time, okay? So anyway, start your Blitzkrieg. So now let's, oh yes, next one up is a reminder that on the 13th of June, for those of you who are in Germany, I need your Blitzkrieg assistance, because we need to Blitzkrieg the courts, okay? We need court observers in Bamberg, Germany. This appeal by Gerhard Ulrich is in German. Now you will find, you can get to the site. Let me show you how to find this yourself. You go to Stop 007, okay, down here, and then you scroll down and you go down to court cases down here, and under the court cases you go to the page of the campaigner Gerhard Ulrich, which is here, and there you will find his appeals in the top index. Okay, there's information on his case, but the last link is appeals by Gerhard Ulrich. And this one here at the top is the newest one. So I am looking for court observers, independent court observers for the 13th of June. That's next Thursday at 1:30 p.m. And the details of the court are in this document here. So you can click on this, and I'm telling you, this is a bombshell case. So here's the address of the Landgericht in Bamberg. Okay, Wilhelmsplatz 1, or number 1. And here, it's not just the lady who was essentially warred on, but also her lawyer. Okay, so now they are attacking her lawyer. So this is a very good lawyer who is supporting her pro bono, and he absolutely needs your support. There are 3 films here that you can watch. They are in German here, but hang on, let me just show you the lawyer. So this is the lawyer here, and he absolutely needs your support, because it sounds like some Nazi administrative warfare being conducted on him. Okay, and I'm just in the process of learning a bit more about the backstory here. There is a statement under oath by Helga Harders here, and you can read about the case, about the in German, unfortunately, about the well, there was an ambush by pseudo police, by fake private contractors masquerading as police without any sort of identification, and that to me sounded like a targeting case. And now that I know a bit more about what's happening to this lawyer, Klaus Plantico, and to Helga Harders, I can tell you that this, to me, appears to be part of a big fat Nazi takeover of the region of Bamberg. You know, proper Nazi-style takeover with Nazi-style methods. And also it's following the Masonic template. Okay, so very, very, very important that you get there and you help us on the 13th of June if you are in Germany. Okay, next item on the list. This is my particular Blitzkrieg on GCHQ. I sent them a subject access request. Okay, and I am demanding my data. You will find, oh, by the way, let me show you how you can find this document, because maybe you would like to emulate this. You will find it here under correspondence. So just look out for this hand drowning in paper on the front page. That's the correspondence section. And then you will find the link to GCHQ up in the index. So this is the subject access request. And what I wrote there is that I demand all the data that they hold on me. But crucially, what I absolutely demand, and this will load eventually. I think my computer is running out of memory, perhaps, because I've got so many tabs open. Yes, here it is. So I said, I demand that you give me all information that you hold on me. And my subject access request is for all types of data, including data gathered from non-consensual body implants. I further demand the full disclosure on what types of body implants, including head/brain implants, nanotechnology, and neurotechnology, have been implanted in me non-consensually. They are transmitting data continually over SIGINT chain that you and NSA control, and I am being impaired, tortured, raped, and maimed with those implants on purpose in the most sadistic manner. Furthermore, I request full detailed disclosure on what institutions and which people my data have been trafficked to. This includes, but is not limited to, data such as emails, phone calls, metadata, location data, surveillance data, body implant data, and body monitoring data. Okay. Which is also brainwaves and stuff like that. So your violations against my rights have been the subject of litigation in 2016. See Dr. Katherine Horton versus SIS, MI5 and GCHQ, and will be subject of litigation again. In preparation for that litigation, I demand that you give, sorry, spelling mistake. I demand that you give me all the data you hold on me. Furthermore, I request that you confirm the receipt of all cease and desist requests that I have sent you. I also renew my demand for you and your associates to cease and desist all warfare operations against me, including but not limited to cyber warfare, human trafficking into non-consensual telemedicine research, human trafficking into non-consensual brain research, sex trafficking into sadistic remote-controlled rape, human trafficking into neurotechnology, robotics, AI, and cybernetics research, human trafficking into sadistic torture, mutilation, and murder programs, and human trafficking into the current global genocide. I also demand that you and your partner organization NSA stop trafficking my body and location data to NATO Space Command and US Air Force Space Command for the targeting of their space-based weapons on my body, my possessions, my car, and my home. I demand that you ensure that all warfare operations against me and my family, as well as my human trafficking and that of my family, are stopped immediately. I also demand that you terminate all interactions with my body implants and that those implants are switched off. I also demand that I and my family are removed from the torture, mutilation, and extermination lists that you and your associates are keeping and placing the current genocide programs on. Yours sincerely, Dr. Katherine Horton. And I absolutely mean it. Now, what in this is my blitzkrieg on them, okay, is that for the first time, they are being challenged on the point that they are collecting every single signal that is traveling through the telecommunication infrastructure. We know that thanks to the whistleblowing of William Binney, and they are collecting that globally. So what that means is that when you are hooked up to this thing and your chip data is interfacing with the mobile mobile telecommunication network and the Wi-Fi, they are collecting your body implants too, okay? The body implant data. You have to get that into your head. It's all just one signals chain, okay? And the signals intelligence is all collected wholesale and stored forever by NSA and GCHQ and Vatican Intel headquartered in Switzerland. But you get the idea, okay? And William Binney also said that NSA and GCHQ are actually the same organization. So what that means is that GCHQ is using NSA, right, as a front, but that means that I am being trafficked. So everything to do with the telecommunication of my body implants is being trafficked by GCHQ. Okay. Now, we already have the whistleblowing statement as it was reported by Dr. Millicent Black, my former colleague. You will find her testimony on the Techno Crime Fighters Forum. And she said that she was told by an FBI, I think it was an FBI agent, yes, I'm pretty sure, by an FBI agent that the FBI knows whose chips are on. Okay, so the FBI also holds the data on this, which is not too surprising. But then again, the FBI are not really the signals kind of people. So what the FBI is actually using is something that has been fed downstream from NSA. Okay, as William Binney said, NSA is the only player that counts in this. Anything to do with data, because all the others are frankly little grunts who couldn't even use a computer to save their lives. So what they're doing is they're going to Big Daddy NSA, and they are basically being fed the data. Okay, probably in a format easily digested by morons. So if the FBI knows whose chips are on, that's because the NSA tells them. Okay, and the Lockheed Martin software that's controlling all the gang stalkers in the United States is also, interfacing. But then again, NSA would have the data Lockheed Martin has. So NSA is the state side of this entire operation. And because GCHQ really, owns NSA, kind of, and really the NSA is just a front for this operation, right? Given that I started being overtly trafficked in the United Kingdom, I can get a hook on this through the GCHQ and the Five Eyes link. Okay, now, that's my little blitzkrieg against GCHQ. That was my opening firing of my personal V2 rocket. I'm sorry. I'm just going to continue the Nazi, terms here. I'm sorry. As a foreigner, right, who emigrated to Germany, I hope you forgive me this joke. But the actual real joke is that we're fighting real Nazis, okay? And I'm proposing to fight them with their own weapons. That's where the joke originates from, right? So, which is why I'm saying this was my V2 rocket fired at GCHQ. But the real key thing you need to understand is that NSA and GCHQ will be controlling the entire signals part of your torture. Okay? They have supreme control over this. So, and they would also be handing out the contracts to the contractors, right? The actual agreements to the contractors to build up this entire infrastructure. Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to say to you is that wherever you are in the world, if you have an implant in you, if you experience odd torture that kind of stays with you, if you move around the room and spin really fast around your axis, it's not satellites and directed energy weapons from the neighbors. It's something that has been put inside you. So it's going to be nanotechnology and chips and this sort of stuff. Okay, so now you know what to do. Now I have explained to you how the system is set up. You have your body area network, these little chips which communicate with the strong emitter, typically on the back of the head or in the neck, and that communicates with the Wi-Fi and the cell phones. And this setup you will find in that paper that is posted on my website, okay, for those of you who are new. And I'm going through this in great detail because all this is super important, guys, okay? So please, start writing this in your court cases and start getting this into your head. This is the research library down here. And here you will find this diagram, which is from this paper, this scientific article on body area networks, okay? And the diagram I'm referring to is this one. So you can see that there's always one strong emitter that is communicating with the external networks, Wi-Fi, and so on. And the others are communicating among themselves. So they are very weak. They have a short distance. And then one strong emitter has a long distance range. Now here, sometimes the long distance emitter is in the shoulders, in the wrist, and in the ankles. I actually think, and this was also Melanie Richard's experience, that the strongest chip is always in the neck and the back of the head, which kind of makes sense because that area is exposed and can be aimed at quite well. Even when you're sitting somewhere, somebody can always aim at your head, but they can't always have a direct line of sight on your ankles and stuff like that, you know? So anyway, and also because you can't really see the back of your head and your neck very well. So it's a good place to hide something a bit bigger. Okay. But the point is that as soon as you have this jump from an emitter onto the Wi-Fi network, you have, you know, basically your data has been hoovered up by NSA and GCHQ. Ergo, they are in charge of your human trafficking. Okay. They can trace the signals. They do. They record the signals. They store the signals. They store your entire body network, body sensor data from that body area network. Okay. Very, very important for you to realize that. Now, okay, let me have a quick look because there's a couple of things. Unfortunately, the chat is further down. So I have to scroll down to see if you guys are still listening, if you guys can still hear me. I hope you still find this useful. Now, also, I want to say sometimes your links don't show up, and that's because YouTube is, you know, putting them on hold, and I have to go through and activate them afterwards. So it's not censoring that I'm doing. They are put on hold somewhere, and I have to release them. But I can only do that after the show typically. So let's go on to some, you know, more blitzkrieging here. So basically my point from the previous one is that you should send your subject access requests and adopt an aggressive policy of questioning GCHQ and NSA. They have now been unmasked. We have now had a strong look at the person behind the curtain who was doing all this. And now we are dragging them into court. So as part of pre-litigation, you know, my attempt at doing some discovery before litigation, I'm already requesting my data, and I will be requesting my data in court again because they have unlawfully trafficked me, and they know full well, because I've sent them countless cease and desists, they know full well how much they are torturing me, and they are actively engaged in Zersetzung, trying to break me, and they are raping me several times per day. And I don't think that my genitals would have ever been a terrorist threat, right? Ever. So I don't think that my privates are any concern of national security. So therefore, military technology has absolutely no place there, right? But nevertheless, I have people accessing me physically nonstop, right? So, and also rape, by the way, is not human experimentation, brain research bullshit. It is just classic good old sex trafficking, so that a bunch of perverted, you know, dumb as fuck serial killing perverts can jack one off. Okay. And GCHQ and NSA are, that is also part of Love Int, by the way. Okay. And one of the big fat business plans, NSA and GCHQ are catering to that business plan. Now, for those of you who don't know where the term Love In comes from, it comes from the discovery that employees of NSA and GCHQ were using NSA data to see if their loved ones or love interests were, you know, seeing other people. Okay. Now, that's the official story. Okay. That's like the abridged public, you know, outreach or press statement on this. If I put my, you know, thinking hat on, sorry, call me cynical, right? But I would wager that if you compare the interest a man has in his current partner, whom he can see naked whenever, compared to the interest he might have in other women, right? Then the probability is much more likely that this love int didn't just stop at their own partners, but also went to checking out the webcam data of any other woman they might have fancied on a whim. Okay? So in other words, the NSA data was used by a bunch of bored, perverted men working there to have a good perv for some good, you know, wanking material, pooling the data of all the women in the United States, including young children. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Now, Love Int is not just looking at emails and Skype messages and Skype conversations. No, Love Int is also using fucking NSA data, right? And the entire signals chain, the entire telco chain, to directly access women and fucking rape them. In other words, what the NSA data holds, right, is the data and the access to the data to all the body implants, and therefore also all the genital implants, and therefore also the direct means to rape every single man and woman and child who has been implanted anywhere on the planet. A pervert's paradise, isn't it? So keep that in mind. When you think Love Int, it's not just spying on phone calls and Skype calls and emails. Love Int means rape of through non-consensual body implants. Okay, so anyway, you know, have a good blitzkrieg against GCHQ and NSA, and send your subject access requests. Now, moving on, because we have so much blitzkrieging to do, here is a big opening salvo, which I like very much, although I would like to put in some footnotes that I would like to draw your attention to. This has just come to my attention. It's an event, sorry. It's an event in August from the 23rd to the 25th of August 2019, and it's a roundtable dialogue, right, that involves Bill Binney and Robert David Steele. Okay, now here is an interview, and sorry, this is, by the way, this is, I think, Robert David Steele writing. Okay, so keep that in mind, and you know my opinion on this guy, right, whom I personally consider to be a big, fat, self-loving, narcissistic psychopath, but that's just as a footnote based on the evidence I've seen. But anyway, he writes, Bill Binney, so this is now Robert David Steele writing, and by the way, he just capitalized I, which I really don't like because it's cartel signaling, but it's Robert David Steele, right, the CIA operative writing, so, you know, no big surprise. Bill Binney, my NSA counterpart, I am to CIA as he is to NSA. This is the opening sentence here. And I'm like, really, Robert? Let's just go through that. So Bill was a technical director at NSA. Were you a director at CIA? And also, Bill Binney is a world-renowned whistleblower. Remind me, Robert, what exactly did you blow the whistle on? You know? And then look at this poster here carefully. Okay, and now look at one thing. Look at the height at which these men are placed. First of all, Robert David Steele is placed on the right. Okay, and remember that most people are right-handed and therefore look to the right first. So that is the dominant side of this poster for right-handed people, and they will see Robert David Steele and not Bill Binney. Okay, and then look at the heights of these people. Robert David Steele is higher than Bill Binney. So if you trace this line, this is roughly the eye line here, and you can just see how much lower Bill Binney has been placed on this image. Pure coincidence? I don't freaking think so. Okay, so I thought, dear me, that is a good start to this, right? I already smell the CIA, you know, behind this and trying to denigrate Bill Binney. That's what I'm taking away from this. But anyway, let's see how it goes, right? So now, they have a couple of tentative speaking topics as a starter list, and this looks quite interesting. So Steele, topic 1 is the ultimate hack, reinventing intelligence to re-engineer Earth. Now, I had a massive hiccup over that. I am sorry, Robert. If intelligence is re-engineering the Earth, we on the good side have utterly fucked up, because right now intelligence is re-engineering the Earth, and it's not for the frickin' better. Okay? So I'm happy with intelligence helping us crime to help us get the fuck back to the sanity we once had, but I am not happy that the intelligence community is re-engineering Earth, or even intelligence by itself is re-engineering Earth. I really am not happy about that. So you know, And then it says, I'm not Q, but if I was, this is what I'm predicting. This is again Steele talking, okay? Now, Binney, on the other hand, suggested topics, deep dive into secret intelligence corruption, my personal story. Well, I would certainly be interested in that one. And then the next one is super important, I find. Thin thread, a tool for eradicating treason and white-collar crime. Yes, I would like to hear about that. But I actually would like to hear about that now and not just in August. I would like to hear more about thin thread and how it can be used to eradicate white-collar crime, okay? And I also would like to hear about how to use thin thread to ensure that it's not used to eradicate math geniuses or, you know, bright children, because it could also be used for that, okay? So what do we have to do to ensure that thin thread is used to eradicate treason and white-collar crime and not to eradicate, you know, certain bloodlines and bright children? That's a very, very important question. It would be, you know, that's what I would say for the question from the audience at the end. Okay, so now there are further topics here suggested, and I think the ones in italics are crowdsourced. And these are disclosure priorities lists, okay? So it's in alphabetical order. And I want to read this out because I want you guys to start thinking about this, because they are all very, very important things. Now, point number one, disclosures on the $21 to $43 trillion theft by deep state from the US Treasury and the US economy. Okay, this, whatever it's called, some asteroid will strike Earth in 2020, sorry, the 13th of April 29 or 36, you know, pi value wrong, whatever. Frankly, asteroids striking Earth are very low on my priority right now, okay? Because I'm actually aiming to strike against the cartel before they manage to get an asteroid somewhere towards us. But anyway, so alternative everything, especially health, holistic health, self, all, Earth. Amendment to the Constitution violations, first, second, fourth. Arrests based on sealed indictments. No re-election without arrests. Very important. Attorney General William Barr, is he controlled opposition or Bushy? Background checks for all politicians, no exceptions. Budget lies, Standard 56 ends public access to reliable data. Catastrophic infrastructure failings, dams, electrical, nuclear. Censorship against alternative open source everything. Cheating culture, lies a standard, history, politics, and science. Well, talking about the cheating and lying culture, Robert, there is Pompeo, okay? Pompeo gone public about how the CIA put on training courses on how to lie, okay? Then CIA, illegal penetration of all local, state, and national agencies, very important. And also keep in mind that the CIA is actually the crown corporation in America. Okay, so you're talking at about a much bigger entity here. Then climate hoaxes, decision support, corruption, separate analysis from collection. I think that's a very good technical, you know, talk to have. The deep state defined, democracy lost, DHS, FEMA, TSA, the new Gestapo ready to kill patriots. Very important question. Directed energy, is Judy Wood on target? Drone assassination, because we can. Election manipulation. Oh, here, look, electromagnetic/5G ecocide and genocide. Very important. Extrasensory perception, deep state efforts to dumb it down. Well, hang on a second, because please first prove to me what's extrasensory perception and what's synthetic telepathy. Okay, that's first things have to be cleared first, right? Extraterrestrial and secret patent technology, free energy, false flag operations, how, why, who benefits. False reductionist medicine. Now I'm reading these out because I want you guys to go through this and be inspired. It's a huge list, okay? Fox News, are they controlled opposition? Genetically modified organisms killing humanity, very important. Geoengineering, and also mentions Morgellons. Glyphosate, true cost, hold everyone accountable. Immigration contrived and enabled as a threat. Intelligence without integrity. 4% useful, 96% criminal. Yes, 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 yes. Now, what are we going to do about that? Military bases as lily pads for smuggling everything, including children. Here, mind control / TI, including voice of God, media, and psycho police. Very important. Moral decline, liberalism, anything goes as a threat. The National Rifle Association, are they controlled opposition? Now here, big one, pedophilia, empire, the pedophilia overview and pedophilia entrapment. Propaganda operations legalized by Smith-Mund revision. Actually, I need to know more about the Smith-Mund revision because I don't really know what that is referring to. Maybe you do. If you do, post it in the chat and I can read it afterwards. Now, religions as a form of control, abuse, and misdirection. Oh, absolutely. Rendition and torture operations. Well, I think I'm in one torture operation. RICO investigations and indictments against social media violators. Yeah, this is a big one. Okay, because when they're saying arrests are coming, I fear that they mean us instead of the fact that they mean the criminals. Now, the other one that's a big one, Satanists and satanic ritual abuse, torture and adrenochrome. Traitors among us use DNA tests to verify claimed origins. The true cost, and well, okay, be careful with that, because if you have a DNA database, you can use it for kind of bloodline extermination again, okay? So be careful with those DNA tests. True cost economics in Western predatory capitalism. United States of America terminate the corporation, very important. Unreasonable search and seizure from NSA and TSA, very important. USA in a state of emergency, legalizing domestic war crimes. Yes, that's the TI topic right there. Vaccine hazards, that's also important for the non-consensual implanting of nanotechnology and self-assembling neurotechnology in the brain through vaccines. Waste, 50% of the Western economy, Venn diagram. Water as the new gold, already stolen. Weapons of mass instruction, why schools are killing humanity. And Zionism versus Judaism, Zionist strikes, peace in the Middle East, question mark. Okay. So apparently this list will be deconflicted with the event organizer, as other speakers will cover some topics in depth. For example, Sasha Stone on 5G, Laura Eisenhower on satanic ritual abuse. I'm interested in your opinion as to what should be added to this list. I mean, I have to say, this is a very, very good list, really. And now here is some information. And what the priority should be in terms of demanding presidential attention. For example, our president has promised to disclose the who, how, what, and why of 9/11 and has failed to do so. Our president is not properly supported by the US intelligence community and needs to reduce what we have by up to 70%, consolidate it all in a revitalized CIA, and create the open source agency that will be the ultimate disclosure engine, telling the truth about everything. And he says, I end on a positive note, we the people are winning, praise be to our president, who is a change agent. And well, I don't really like the word agent, but anyway, as well as the 2012 shift and other forces now in alignment against the deep state and the Satanists ruling the deep state. So you can email Robert David Steele on this email and you can suggest topics, but I have to say this list is pretty awesome. But I also have to say that it fills a week's worth of conference, so there have to be probably things picked. But I would say that what is super important is to stop the genocide, right? So all the stuff, certainly, of course, I would say so. All the stuff to do with TIs has to be put on the list. But this, I have to say, is a very good, roundtable dialogue. I absolutely find it great, and I wish I could be there. But it is a big, wonderful blitzkrieg attack on the global crime cartel, and I am pleased about that. So Now, the next thing I would like to show you, oops, for those people who don't know, who haven't seen the video, I have, launched my own personal blitzkrieg against MI6 by applying for the position of the chief of the Secret Intelligence Service. And I encourage you to continue that type of blitzkrieg by applying yourself. Let's let there be proper competition. Now, other blitzkrieg from the other side now, very important, is this report by UK Column News from yesterday. It has some very, very worrying trends in here. One of the things I would like to report to you about here, I just need to find it, is I just have to find the link. Is it somewhere in the beginning? I'm not quite sure, but oh gosh. Anyway, somewhere along here, this big, great stuff in here. There was one quote by the Supreme Court judge. Oops, where is it? I'm trying to pick out this quote here. It just keeps disappearing. Okay, so this quote by Lord Kerr that you can just about see there, but I don't know where the hell it is. Why is it disappearing? Well, okay, Lord Kerr was making the point that you are not entitled to a trial by jury, and only a trial by a judge is really fair. Now, I don't think that is true, but anyway, sorry, I can't. Somehow you can see that the YouTube video is not really responding. I want to show you this quote by Lord Kerr. So he was oh God. No, it's somewhere there. But anyway, he became a Supreme Court judge. So I have watched him as on the Supreme Court. And when they're quoting these judges, you always have to be careful because they can be pulled out of context. But then again, right, they also sometimes set themselves up to be pulled out of context. So it's very, very important to really carefully look at from where this quote was pulled, what the circumstances are. But what Lord Kerr said is, I think, a good point. He said, you don't have an entitlement to trial by jury. You have an entitlement to a fair trial. Okay, but the question is, in the current situation of infiltration and people being bought by the intelligence services, isn't it easier to just buy one person, as in one judge, than to buy an entire jury? But then again, I also wouldn't put it past MI5 to buy the entire jury, So it's always a very, very, very difficult thing to say. But in principle, just from a systems analysis point of view, it tends to be harder to buy larger groups of people on average. Okay, on average. And frankly, with human systems, it is the average, the only thing that we can actually hope to control. Okay, we cannot control the individual cases. But this episode of UK Column News has a lot of bombshell information, but it also has, and this is something I wanted to particularly draw people's attention to, it was about how universities were saying, I think it's somewhere here, maybe if I reload it. No, sorry, this is something else. Basically, what I wanted to talk about is that, yes, I think it's this one. So UK university to monitor social media accounts to identify suicidal students. And it's Northumbria University in the northeast of England is set to take the radical step of using, hang on, let me blow it up, of using data I'm reading from this big, this small inlet here, top left. So Northumbria University in the northeast of England is set to take the radical step of using data collected from students' social media accounts in a bid to reduce climbing student suicide rates. The higher educational institution located in Newcastle upon Tyne will create an early alert tool to offer aid to undergrads in crisis. Now, if it weren't the case that there is a genocide going on in the United Kingdom, and the genocide plans to that have been announced here on Deagle.com, whereby they want to reduce the UK population from 66 million down to 15 million. If this weren't the case, I might for a second entertain the thought of this being true. But as there are genocide plans, and as they want to murder as many people as they possibly can over the next 6 years, what do you think? What do you genuinely think that, how much of a flying fuck they're going to give about, the student suicides? Honestly, I'm asking you, okay? How much do you think that they will care that sorry, I'm trying to find the link again because it disappeared. Here, this one. How much do you think they care about these students who are suicidal? And also another question I would like to ask, how many of these suicidal students are being neuroteched into suicide, or maybe gang stalked at university and not knowing what is happening to them? How many of them are suicidal because they are being hit with voice to skull when they're going to university and they are entering MI5's research programs? That's my question. Why are students suicidal to start with? Because honestly, back in the 70s, they did not have a problem with suicidal students. Okay? And that I have asked around, I have asked my parents, and I said, look, were suicides among university students ever a problem? And my parents replied, no, we were all too busy. We were all too busy to get depressed. Okay? So what happened? Because when people are born and grow up as children and become university students, they are the same human matter, biologically. So why are university students, suicidal now? Okay, what is it? It cannot possibly be that the demands on university students have increased. I can tell you that much, having taught at Oxford. Okay, I taught very, very good elite students. Okay, but I did not have the impression that from year to year we were demanding more and more from these students. Absolutely not. Sometimes we had the distinct feeling that we were wiping backsides, not with everyone, but with some. And that was an elite university with handpicked students. Now, I can tell you that the average mass university has absolutely not increased their standards. Okay, so what is it? What exactly is it that is, hitting students? Now, of course, one of the things I noticed is that universities are getting more disorganized, which actually makes studying much harder. Okay. So it's counterintuitive, but a very strict and schooled way of teaching at university is easier for students because they can focus on the material and don't have to organize themselves. Okay, it's more efficient. When you just let them run loose, they haven't got a clue of what they need to do, so they will struggle. But that doesn't explain it all. So for me, this is highly sinister, and it is just the more evidence based on what I know about the widespread human trafficking, that this is evidence of human trafficking by MI5 and GCHQ kicking in at Northumbria University. Because I am sorry, data collected from students' social media accounts sounds like GCHQ. Now, GCHQ, as I just explained, is human trafficking me and all the other implanted victims around the world. So what do you think that this project is actually about? Okay. What do you think this project is actually about? And I encourage you to listen to all this. Now, another thing I would like to draw your attention to is over here. Okay, so she's saying now, okay, CEO office for students. And she says, whenever I talk to students, improving mental health support is consistently raised as a priority. Taking preventative action to promote good mental health is critical, as is taking a whole institution approach and involving students in developing solutions. Now, this is the typical soulless doublespeak drivel that is coming out of cartel organizations. So I don't believe a freaking word of this at all. And I remind people that the entire term mental health is a new invention. Okay, not that long ago, people could be a bit sad, right? A bit melancholic, and that was that, and they would snap out of it. Okay, and it was generally accepted if shit happens in your life that you would become sad and feel a bit down. But calling it mental health and springing up an entire industry of drugs is a new thing. And it's not necessarily a good thing, because psychopharmaca reduce your life expectancy by a third, as I have been told, okay, by a lawyer specializing in getting people out of these drugs. Now, in all this, why the fuck is there mental health a crisis among students? Okay, why the fuck? That's the real question. Now, look at it, okay, because it goes into more detail into what exactly this entails, right? But then the other thing is that right, when you look at these people here, right, there's one here who is also a non-executive person with the Ministry of Defense and Equity UK, a financial services company. Okay, so please watch this, and watch it with targeting in mind and human trafficking in mind, because that, in my view, is exactly neurotechnology experimentation on the students right there. And remember, the goal is to find a way to get a lot of people to kill themselves, because currently there's a UK genocide running. Okay, so that's where I would suggest you look. So if you have mental health services for university students, okay, the absolute very first step when a depressed student comes into your office and asks for counseling is that you get an ultraviolet torch out and you just say, just a second, love, let me just check if MI5 have implanted you with eye implants, because that might explain your nightmares, and it might explain why you can't sleep very well and you wake up exhausted. Now, when we're done with this, just a second, love, let me pull out my bug detector and check if your head isn't utterly covered with radio frequency chips, because the radiation alone should be enough to fry your brain, let alone the neuroexperimentation algorithms that MI5 might be running on you. And once we have cleared all that, and if you don't have any of those, then we might talk about what issues you actually have. Because up until then, right, my first null hypothesis would be that you don't have a mental health problem, you have an MI5 problem. Okay, that's what I want you all to understand. This is a very, very, very important point. Okay, now another thing I would like to point out that is also to do with targeting, and also to do with the big fat blitzkrieg from the other side. Okay, let me just find the find the diagram. Okay, so you will have to watch me click through this UK column broadcast. Just a second, but I've got something for you, so it's worth your wait. Okay, so yes, here. Now, the other guy, Martin Coleman, okay, let me blow this up, is a deputy chair of the board and chairs the provider risk committee. They're probably providing risk, right? Okay, he's a member of the Competition and Markets Authority board, and he chairs the CMA panel, whose members investigate markets and mergers. Interesting, right? Anyway, Martin is a trustee of Police Now and a fellow of Hughes Hall, University of Cambridge. And blah, blah, blah. He was also here in the law firm of Norton Rose. Sorry, just down there. But anyway, so Police Now. And then they go into this website of Police Now. And I now want you to lean back, okay, and take this in from the point of view of cartel signaling. They call themselves Police Now. And then, okay, what they have here on their front page is actually a mural with the sun rays. Okay, now if it weren't the case that the UK and all other countries are being run by a thousands of years old death and sex cult that is using sun worship at its core, I wouldn't really hiccup about this. But you know, as it does, I am rather worried about this. Okay, so we have the sun symbol here, sun worship, the Jesuits, right? They have a direct connection to the UK police. Okay, and then the tagline is join us, change the story. Okay, join us and changing the story, fine. But now, look at this about us. Police Now's mission is to transform communities, reduce crime, and increase the public's confidence in policing by recruiting and developing outstanding and diverse individuals to be leaders in society and on the policing front line. And my first reaction was, excuse me, since when is it a Bobby's job to transform a community? If you're transforming communities, it means you're MI6 and you're blowing the shit out of a Northern Ireland community. That's last time, you know, what transforming a community meant. It was MI6 going in, infiltrating Northern Ireland and making it blow the fuck up. That's transforming communities, right? Now, recruiting and developing outstanding and diverse individuals sounds to me like recruiting gang stalkers. And why the fuck do you recruit them to become leaders in society? Are you fucking nuts? Since when are these bobbies tasked with generating the leaders of our society, right? Given that the very same police officers can't be fucked to investigate even a single case of directed energy weapon assault. How the fuck can this be? That they are now not investigating mutilation, torture, and murder, but they are now tasked with creating leaders in society. Well, I'm sorry, guys, but this sounds like you are grooming and training handlers. That's what you're doing. Handlers. And plants who would then be running human rights charities. So I am sorry, but this Police Now organization with the, Vatican crime cartel sun worship symbol and the symbol of the Jesuit crime cartel is not very confidence inducing. And when I read that, the one organization advertising itself with the sun symbol wants to transform communities and, develop leaders in society, I think, holy fuck, we are staring at the gang stalking and targeted extermination program. Right here. Okay, right there. Now, the reason why it's so important, guys, and the reason why I bang on about this, and I no doubt am making a mega broadcast today, is because all of these things are important puzzle pieces and I want them to be part of the very same broadcast. So if you just turn on this broadcast and you have it running in your background as you're ironing your clothes or making lunch or dinner, I want you to take all these different things in at the same time because they are part of the same global extermination program. Okay? The suicide tracking of the university students by pooling their social media data. Doesn't that sound like exactly what GCHQ is doing, right? Combined with Police Now, transforming communities. I'm sorry, what I can see on the ground is transforming communities is that neighbors are given directed energy weapons by MI5 and their international equivalents to exterminate their neighbors and thereby transform the community. That's what I'm seeing. And I see a fuckload of gang stalkers, right, interfaced with their phones, again, controlled by NSA and GCHQ, coordinating the gang stalking to drive people into suicide. Now, given that there's the gang stalking program in the UK driving people into suicide, I don't believe for a fucking second that the monitoring of the social media data will be to prevent suicide. What? You're trying to make it, come out nil by canceling some suicides you prevent by the suicides you cause? I don't think so. Not when you want to murder so many people in the United Kingdom, to take the United Kingdom from 66 million down to 15 million, which is what, twice the size of London? Okay. Really? I don't think so here. So what you're actually staring at is police now, and all the people involved in that are the people who are involved in setting up the gang stalking program. Now, other, you know, covers and fronts for the gang stalking program are Prevent in the United Kingdom and the COPS program in the United States. Okay. And of course, in the United States, the fusion centers and DHS and all that sort of stuff, right? Of course. But these are these government programs, and they're always a double speak front for something much, much more sinister. And it's always really sinister because the government is in deep capture by a death and sex cult. So whatever you uncover behind a front will be to do with fucking and killing. And as it happens, targeting is just that, because people get, you know, raped, and they get maimed, and then they get murdered. So, you know, guess who's doing it? Okay, so anyway, that was very, very important for you to absorb it now next. And now I'm going to pick up super fast speed because I have to go through a few more links, and I want you all to have them in one go. So the next link here is, just a second. Okay, let me share my screen because there are a couple more things. Now, actually, before I get to this, well, no, let's start with this. So, talking about doublespeak, okay, look at what I've just seen, okay, a few days ago. The UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, Professor Niels Meltzer, has now gone public saying that Assange's case is unlike anything he has seen in 20 years of work with war victims. Really, Professor Meltzer? I mean, when I first saw him, I thought, fuck me, the guy actually does something. Because years ago, Dr. Millicent Black contacted the office of the UN Special Rapporteur, who was Juan Mendes at the time, and she reported how she is being raped, mutilated, is chipped to the hilt, and is hooked up and is being neuro-controlled by a psychopathic killer who retired from the US Air Force. Frankly, Julian Assange's case, regardless of how shocking, doesn't even come freaking close to what Dr. Millicent Black is going through. It really fucking isn't. I think if you said to Millicent, hey, would you rather like to stop being tortured and spend 7 years in a small room, right? Being able to just study and look at books, I think she would say, okay, I'll go for the books for 7 years. But I would rather not be tortured and mutilated by a psychopathic serial killer who's one after the other killing my family and community members. Now, the backstory to this is that this UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, Professor Niels Meltzer, has been informed several times of not just of Millicent's case, but of many other torture victim cases in the US and Europe, and including victim cases in Switzerland, where he hails from, namely myself. So, how the fuck can he claim that he hasn't seen anything like it in 20 years when we kept reporting that we are being tortured alive? Right? So, I'm sorry, I'm calling fucking bullshit on this thing, okay? I think this guy had to show his face because the embarrassment that his UN Special Rapporteur on Torture office does sweet fuck all on rampant torture in Europe and the US is turning into one big burning embarrassment. But I was livid when I saw this guy online. I mean, you know, thank goodness he does something to earn his no doubt massive salary, because he's both employed as a UN, you know, rapporteur and also as a professor, I think somewhere in Britain, in Scotland even maybe, Edinburgh, if I remember correctly, right? But people don't tell me that he's not drawing a salary from the UN. So I'm sorry, right? You have to do something for your salary, and with rampant torture, this press appearance, this show is the only thing that you can do, Professor. Really? So this is one big fat fucking fraud here. It's a big fat fucking intel fraud. This is what I would like to say. Yes, of course, Julian Assange's case is dreadful, but I'm sorry, there's dreadful and there's absolutely fucked in their head psychopathically awful. And all the targeting cases are the latter. So I'm sorry, you know, forget the UN Special Rapporteur. I mean, if he hasn't perked up until now, by now he can literally go and fuck himself because it's too little, too late. But anyway, talking about spies, I've got another piece of news for you, which is that spies from GCHQ take part in covert charity bike ride. Isn't that nice? Now, when I read this, I thought, you know what? I think Gareth Williams also loved to ride his bike. Gareth Williams, the math genius who was brutally murdered by MI6 and then posthumously humiliated. His body was desecrated and he was humiliated and smeared. Sorry, you can hear that MI6 rather would strangle me right now. But I remind everybody, Gareth Williams was murdered by MI6 then also his body was desecrated in an MI6 safe house, and after that his death was celebrated with satanic symbolism in the British press, and then they wanted to smear him and presenting him as a sex pervert, which is ironic because that's exactly what the MI6 leadership are. Okay, now with this background and Gareth Williams' love for cycling, I thought I am going to read this article just in his memory. Now, the first thing to note here is when you read the article, I was thinking, okay, where is the cartel signaling? Okay, and then it starts: spies from spies from security agency GCHQ have taken part in a covert bike ride for charity. The 100-strong cycling team cycled 125 kilometers, and now brackets, 77.7 miles from Bletchley Park to Cheltenham to mark its centenary. Okay, now Britain at some point switched from imperial measurements to the Euro standard. So actually, there is no reason to give the miles anymore, right? Maybe as a courtesy, but you know, given how traditional these people are, isn't it ironic that they chose the distance to be exactly 77.7 miles, given that 777 is an intel recognition cartel signaling? Okay, so for those of you who are doubting cartel signaling and its importance and the importance of the number 777, look no further than this. This is coming straight from GCHQ. Okay. And then blah, blah, blah. It was a secret cycle ride and they wanted to, you know, raise money for Cancer Research UK, which is fucking ironic because GCHQ should have the insider data on the fact that most cancers are fraudulent bioweapons and that a lot of cancer-causing agents have been patented by the Rockefeller Foundation. Okay? It's a bit ironic, isn't it? And then the rest was split between Heads Together. I don't know what that is. Is that a rugby club? And then the Royal British Legion and Code Club. Okay. And it says the Queen celebrated GCHQ's centenary earlier this year with a visit to its former top secret base, Watergate House in London. Now, you know what? We should celebrate GCHQ's centenary by remembering Gareth Williams, who was brutally murdered by MI6. And he was a GCHQ employee and the math genius on loan to MI6. So let's all honor the GCHQ centenary by focusing on Gareth Williams and what the fuck to do to sort out British intelligence and GCHQ, that is now the biggest human trafficking organization, along with NSA, on the planet. Oh, God, this shit really upsets me sometimes. But anyway, now, in other news, very, very important, okay? Large Ebola outbreaks are the new normal, says the World Health Organization. Read the article yourself and ask yourself if these large Ebola outbreaks, given that modern Ebola strains are patented by, guess what, among other, the Rockefeller Foundation, as far as I know, ask yourself if these Ebola outbreaks are not actually part of the global genocide plans, torturing and murdering, African people in one of the most horrific ways. Okay, because this is what it sounds like to me. Okay, very, very important to think about this. I wouldn't say so if there weren't genocide plans all around the world already published. Okay, now, very, very fast final links, and this will be super fast. Number one, I have found a reference on here. Sorry, I think this page has to reload because my my RAM is going out of range. I have found a reference to the Spitzelsteuer, okay, the spy tax in Germany in a book, okay, and you will find it here. Oops, sorry, my apologies, my bad. You will find it in this book if you speak German, which is the workbook for your tax return. Okay, everybody knows the cons in Germany. But what I want to point out is that in the new book on Amazon.de, if you look for the 2018 and 2019 book, you can look at the index. Okay, so you have to go down to one of the final pages. And in the index, you will find here a reference to the Spitzelsteuer, which is here. So on page 50, this book explains, and you will find it. So basically, I'm just saying you'll find it in the current edition, what I already spotted in the 2011 and 2012 edition. Okay, very, very important. So what I spotted in this edition is that all the informants, which are numerous indeed, all the informants of German intelligence in Germany only pay a tax rate of 10%. Okay, that is the little section on the Spitzelsteuer, and they don't have to submit an income tax return. In other words, how would anybody know, if the 10% are measured on their entire income or just a subset? Okay, so in other words, 10% is the maximum tax rate that informants pay in Germany, which means that if you become a gang stalker or fucking little neighborhood snitch, you are getting a massive boost. So you become a member of this parallel society that doesn't have to stick to any rules and is not paying any tax. So you will get stonkingly rich compared to your peers who are not snitches. So this is a system that is really putting a huge incentive into the utter degeneration of society, because snitching on each other, Stasi style, will become a huge and absolutely massive financial incentive. And on this note, I would like to remind people that this is the tax distribution in Germany, showing how the tax rate starts to be levied on your income as soon as you earn 8,000 euros, which is frankly fuck all. Okay, so the minimum tax rate you're paying is 14%, and 14% is almost 50% more of what the spies would and the informants would pay. Okay, but actually they pay much less than 10%. So even the poorest in Germany pay more than the fucking snitches, which means that this criminal underclass very quickly will come to rule Germany, which is exactly what happened. So in other words, what I'm saying to you guys, do you remember in the beginning how I said that we have to look at the templates and they will be identical across the countries? What I'm saying to you guys who are not in Germany is that given that Germany is a colony of Britain and America, you will have exactly the same thing in America and in Britain. In other words, the gang stalkers and the snitches do not pay tax. Okay, and the very same applies as to individuals as to criminal enterprise. Remember how I said that criminal enterprise doesn't pay tax and doesn't fall under any regulator. In other words, if they don't pay tax, they will grow at a rate exactly the percentage of tax typically levied faster than normal businesses of the same size. So in other words, if you're running a restaurant and your profit is the same as the local drug dealer, on day one or, the first year, the local drug dealer will outbuy you because he will not pay tax. So he will grow faster by the percentage that you have to divert off to tax. So this proves, right, if you just evolve the situation, that the drug dealer, even if he started out making as much profit as you, will end up buying you out and will use your restaurant to launder his drug money. That is what happens by the internal physics of the system. Now, in the case of individuals, what will happen is that if you have an honest family and a family of fucking snitches and gang stalkers, the gang stalkers will end up buying the property and renting it out to the good guys, okay? Because the gang stalkers are not paying tax, so they have, let's say, every year 10 to 45% more income than the honest family. They will put that into the stock markets. They will earn a rate of return on that. They will get stonkingly rich very, very quickly, and they will end up buying property, okay, and then will start renting it out to the people who could never really afford to buy property because they are accumulating wealth much slower. And before you know it, as soon as you have a preferential tax rate to your fucking snitches and your criminal underclass, you will end up with a country that is ruled by an organized crime cartel. And it is absolutely intrinsically hardwired into the physics of the system through this, the Spitzelsteuer, among other things, okay? So the reason why this is super important for you to know if you're in an English-speaking country is that there exists a book that you can reference online through Amazon.de where the Spitzelsteuer is named, so you can screenshot the index, put it in your court case, and explain this to a judge, how it comes about that these gang stalkers are psychopathic, super criminal, serial killing mass morons, and they are exterminating people in the communities in Britain. How did this situation arise? It's staggering, but it's actually entirely within the physics of the system, how it has been set up. Okay, and then also if you want to blitzkrieg this and fight back, you know that the first thing that has to be removed is the Spitzelsteuer, this preferential tax rate for snitches. Now, another thing I want to say is that actually this Spitzelsteuer has a wonderful, side effect, which is basically blitzkrieg gold for the good guys, because what that means, if you have a Spitzelsteuer, is that the inland revenue of Germany and, of course, also of the US and Britain, because they use the same system, right? Because they set up the system in Germany. The inland revenue has the list of all the gang stalkers in the country because they are all on this preferential tax rate. Isn't that nice? So, you know how after the Second World War, just a handful of, Nazis were executed, and even, some of them, like, what was his face, Goering, he just escaped, and he was doing the all-seeing eye and the hidden hand signaling and blah, 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 right? So not even he was executed, but the rest of the Nazi network stayed in Germany, okay? Now, we shouldn't make the same mistake again now in the 21st century, and we don't have to, because, right, even if the German intelligence services and MI5 and, the FBI and CIA refuse to reveal who their gang stalkers are, it doesn't matter because they can claim national security, but you can access the data on them and who their identities are by just asking the Inland Revenue. You just have to ask how many people are on this preferential tax rate, right? And who are they? Who are they? Because they have been involved, first of all, this is terrorist financing, and they have been involved in high treason and crimes against humanity, okay? What you have to get into your head, and this is in one of those concepts you have to anchor in your head because it will become very important later. When you are trying to find the identity of the gang stalkers because you want to drag them into court because they have murdered your relatives, you might be one of the few survivors of your family, right? Desperately clinging on to life in the process of being murdered, so you really need a court case. If you want to find out who these people are, you can request the Inland Revenue to tell you everybody on a preferential tax rate in your neighborhood or at work. Those will be the people that have been doing the gaslighting. And remember, nobody does anything without getting some sort of benefit. Okay? Now, this is huge. This realization is huge because it gives investigators another avenue to claw at the data of these, Nazi terror and extermination networks. So remember the preferential tax rates and the fact that you can access it from the Ministry of Finance or the Inland Revenue, whatever you call it. Also remember that NSA and GCHQ hold all the data on the gang stalkers, all the data, what they did, because they always are specifically tasked, who they are, who they abused, and so on and so on. This data is already in Bluffdale. Okay? And in other places. It's also in Switzerland, I'm pretty sure. But, so you can access the gang stalker information from the Inland Revenue. You can access it from the NSA directly. You can also access it from the contractors, right? Like Lockheed Martin, because Lockheed Martin is running the gang stalking in at least 47 out of the 50 states, as my former colleague Karen Melton-Stewart and her private investigator uncovered. Okay? Now, the fourth pillar of this, where you can also claw at the data of the gang stalkers, are the banks. The banks, right? Because all of these people are being paid through their bank accounts. So who sent what money to whom at what time is all in the banking data. So you have 4 ways to get at these Nazi extermination, serial killing super morons, known as gang stalkers. So again, Inland Revenue data, preferential tax rates, NSA data and GCHQ data, contractor data like Lockheed Martin, and banking data that is already held by the banks. Okay, and even if one out of these 4 is, oops, my computer froze. I hope you can see me. Even if one out of these 4, like NSA and GCHQ, refuse to hand out data because of national security, then you're like, fine, but the preferential tax rates are not national security, so let's get it from the Inland Revenue. Lockheed Martin, private company, not really. Let's get the gang stalking data from them. Banks, not really national security. Let's get the data from them. And you can actually get a court order to request the data. Okay, so keep these 4 avenues in mind. Very, very important for your personal blitzkrieg against these Nazi mass murdering psychopaths. Very important. Okay, so now I have just a few more things to tell you, and then I will let you go to sleep. But today is a very, very important broadcast, so I have to keep at it. I can also see that my computer is stalling somewhat. So, okay, now the other thing that you need to know, my computer is hanging itself, sadly. Okay, is okay, I think it's the broadcast is getting harder and harder, so I will terminate it very soon. But what you need to know is that I was just sent a link to a very important book that people should get. And if my computer allows me, I will try to show the link. Okay, I think I've just managed to really push the boat out. I'm not sure if you guys can still hear me and see me. It's, my computer is utterly frozen over at my end. And this is a brand new computer, and it's not doing anything that it shouldn't be able to handle. I think because I've really pushed the boat out, I'm being blitzkrieged as well by the other side. Okay, so let's see if I can get it back under control. Okay, here we go. So the book that you should have a look at, because it has very important evidence in it, and thanks for the investigator who sent it to me, it's called Überveillance and the Social Implication of Microchip Implants, Emerging Technologies, Advances in Human and Social Aspects of Technology. And this is by M.G. Michael and Katrina Michael. Now, okay, it already starts here. There's a summary that tells you it's bombshell information. It says, in addition to common forms of spatial units such as satellite imagery and street views, emerging automatic identification technology are exploring the use of microchip implants in order to further track an individual's personal data, identity, location, and condition. Condition means biosensors in real time. Überveillance and the social implications of microchip implants. Okay. Present case studies, literature review, ethnographies, and frameworks supporting the emergent technologies of RFID implants, while also highlighting the current and predicted social implications of human-centric technologies. This book is essential for professionals and researchers engaged in the development of these technologies. Huh, really? So, as well as providing insight and support to the inquiries with embedded micro technologies. Now, frankly, this to me doesn't sound like a critical investigation. It sounds like an instruction manual, okay, and an instruction manual for complete enslavement. Now, if you look at the index, one of the things I wanted to point out to you is in the index, you will find, okay, so here, the section 1, the valences, you know, überveillance, data valence, 30 years on, beyond surveillance, data valence, überveillance, and hypocrisy of one-sided watching. Okay. Überveillance, where, and educative arrangement. Educative, interesting. Here, practical experimentation with human implants. Kevin Warwick and Mark N. Gasson, both from the University of Reading. So guess who was experimenting with human implants? I guess it's the University of Reading. If I remember correctly, the University of Reading also puts on a course on preparation for GCHQ style work. I think it was the University of Reading. I'm pretty sure. So you can see the connection right there. Now, the other thing, towards the blanket coverage, DNA profiling and sampling of citizens in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Interesting. Then there's ID scanners and überveillance in the nighttime economy, crime prevention or invasion of privacy. Global tracking system in the Australian interstate trucking industry. Tracking legislative developments in relation to do not track initiatives. Okay, überveillance standards anticipation, a case study on nanobiosensors and US cattle. Something tells me that is US people. Microchip-induced tumors in laboratory rodents and dogs. Privacy and pervasive surveillance, the social implications of radio frequency identification. Neuroethics and implanted brain-machine interfaces. We are the Borg, human assimilation into cellular society. Oops, they already have a term for it. Cellular society, hey? The screen bubble. Überveillance and faith-based organizations. A renewed moral imperative. Now, this, okay, is very important. Unfortunately, the book costs £138, but I'm told it is worth every penny. Okay, but certainly what it proves is that there are big efforts, absolutely massive efforts to use this. There's already academic work out there, and so it cannot be denied that this technology exists and is being researched and is being used on an absolutely massive scale. Okay. Going absolutely nuts. Now I can also see that my my screen is freezing over, so it's the broadcast here, because I'm afraid that it's my computer is going to hang itself and then I cannot terminate the broadcast. I am not sure how well you can hear me and still see me, because it is all very, very Okay, it's literally in the process of hanging itself. So I have to call it a day, unfortunately. And I hope you could see me. I hope this wasn't very too jerky. I suspect really, you know, big sabotage because it just started hitting me when I went live. But everything in this broadcast is super, super important. I hope at least you had my voice to listen to, and the links. I will continue this broadcast another time. I've got, you know, some more information, but that will come, you know, in a couple of days. But I urge you to please, please, please spread this information. I'm sorry that my broadcasts are very long, but I have to cram everything into the one chance I have to, you know, get through to you. So sorry about that. Listen to these in parts, you know, listen to these broadcasts when you go on walks on your headphones, if you're in the habit of doing that, or in your car radio. But the most important thing is that I can flag these issues, that you take action. There's lots of action, blitzkrieg action that you can take. If you don't like the Police Now program, you have to start complaining to the Police Now people. You have to start complaining to the police. You have to start complaining to the authorities, which means to the courts and to the government now, because I strongly suspect that the gang stalking program is being organized through it. And it is not the job of British bobbies to transform communities or develop leaders in society. It never fucking was, and it never shall be. So when they start having these ideas, I think this is the time to remind them that the sole duty they have right now is to investigate the genocide with directed energy weapons. That is their job. Okay, so these are the things I wanted to say. Thank you very much for listening. Keep blitzkrieging back, right? Don't let yourself be nailed to the floor. Don't let yourself be brought down. And most importantly, remember that mental health as an issue didn't really used to exist as a big business 20 years ago, or 30 years ago rather, okay? Most certainly it didn't exist in the 1970s. That's not because people weren't sad in the 1970s, but you didn't just pop a pill. You just went down to the pub, spoke to people, got over it. Or if you were a woman, maybe you spoke to your friends, you know, ate a tub of ice cream and got the fuck over it. But when it becomes a real crisis that is absolutely an absolute epidemic, it's not something internal to humans. It's something external. Something external is happening to you. And this means most likely you're being neurotecked. Remember, you can find your chips with an ultraviolet torch in your eyes. You can find the chips on your head with a bug detector. Get going, guys, because we need the evidence. And most importantly, if you're a victim, please start filling out the affidavit template. I need you to testify. If you're in Britain, I especially need your testimony very, very soon, because I want to file my case very, very soon. So I need more cases from the UK to back me up. Please support me, because, you know, my court case is a long-running case, very well documented, and I'm really going to do my absolute best to have these crimes shut down. Okay, and remember to send your special access requests to GCHQ, or if you're in the US, to NSA. And if you're anywhere in the world, you can actually send it still to NSA and GCHQ. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for listening and putting up with the cyber sabotage. Have a wonderful weekend, and talk to you soon. Bye for now.